A few weeks ago, I read my first highly acclaimed modern science fiction book, and I did not like it. So even though Piranesi had a lot of like awards clout going into it, I was kind of skeptical. And I threw this skepticism away, I'm not kidding, literally 10 minutes into the book. Like 10 pages, 15 pages into the book, Clarke had me hook, line, and sinker. And she had me all the way through the last page. Move over, Arthur C. There is a better science fiction Clarke writer in town. Just kidding, he's pretty good too. Our book is about a man called, you guessed it, Piranesi. But as much of a main character as him is the house in which he lives in. Not exactly a house though, more of like a labyrinth. It is an endless assortment of rooms connected by passageways. It goes on and on and on, and Piranesi has never found the end of it, even though he's gone for miles. It's 3-storied, so it's got the main halls, which is where Piranesi spends most of his time. And then it's got the upper halls, which are sometimes filled with like rain clouds, and it has lots of birds. And then there's the lower levels, which are called the drowned halls, and that's filled with water where fish, crustaceans, and sea vegetation live. Really the only noteworthy thing about the rooms is these beautiful marble statues and sculptures that fill nearly every room. In terms of human beings though, it's just Piranesi, 13 skeletons, and one other man, a man that's called the Other. Piranesi keeps himself busy in the halls, examining their nooks and crannies, along with taking care of himself by collecting food and gathering water. He considers himself an explorer and a philosopher, and he documents everything that he learns in his notebooks. The Other is also quite academic, calling himself a philosopher. Okay, and with all that set up, all I will say about the plot of the book is that it's Piranesi attempting to understand the puzzle that is the halls. The simplicity of this book is just so compelling to me. You're given this incredibly simple setup of 2 men in this relatively bare, mysterious set of halls. If I was a writer though, I would sit down and I would examine and study this book, because something about her words and the description of the atmosphere and ambiance just makes this simple situation so intriguing from page to page. To me, it's similar to something like why Super Mario 64, the video game from the N64, is still one of the most beloved games of all time. It was released 30 years ago, so it's relatively barren considering or compared to things nowadays, but every enemy, every nook and cranny was placed there for a reason, and that simplicity, it's beautiful and it makes its exploration so compelling. Clarke sets up this extremely intriguing, mysterious, and engrossing world. There is a beauty in it, but there's also a subtle eeriness. It's kind of like a liminal space. Shout out liminal spaces. This bareness and this eeriness, it invoked this extremely naive curiosity that I feel like is the goal of a lot of SF books, but it only ever clicks very rarely with me, and it did in this one. We start off so bare in terms of what we know about the world, and Clarke just drip feeds us piece by piece in such a tantalizing way. Every little piece of information about the world that we got, I fucking ate up. Whenever there was like a paragraph or a section that moved forward the mystery of the labyrinth, I was just glued to the page. It also has that effect where like something gets revealed or some clue is given and you're like, there's no way this shit can get any crazier. And then it does, and I never felt let down. This book is a science fiction mystery. I don't care what it's labeled as, because to me, it is a mystery. The mystery is brilliantly ever evolving as well. You start off the book and you're like, okay, what is this place? And that's the mystery. And then as you go, the questions evolve into more pointed ones about specific mysterious occurrences or objects or people. One thing I hate about mysteries is that sometimes you'll read them and at the end they're like, oh, and it was Richard the whole time, and he killed them because of these reasons that we didn't exactly tell you. And you're like, okay, well then, was reading the book just completely pointless? I read Piranesi with my mom, and we each individually came up with our own sort of different subtle hints on what was going on throughout the book. Even better, there were like so many moments throughout the book in which I was like, I did it, I solved it, I figured it out, I'm so smart. And then a few scenes later, it would keep me constantly guessing because I was totally wrong. The mystery is extremely digestible and well-paced as well. I remember a specific moment, which was this super dense scene where we learned so much, and Clarke followed it up with like this scene of contemplation from Piranesi, which I thought was a super smart way to give readers time to sort of process what happened and what just unfolded in the mystery. And there are a bunch of quality of life things that are just sprinkled in, and it's something that I much prefer to dumping like tons of shit on you and just saying, okay, go reread it if you didn't understand what happened. Before I knew this book was a mystery, I was seeing like every little thing in it as like a metaphor. So reading back over my notes, I was just laughing at past Sam, just thinking that every tiny little detail was some metaphor. It's like when you smoke weed and you're writing notes for like all the little interesting thoughts that you had when you were high, and then the next morning you look at your notes and you're like, bro, what the fuck was I on about? That being said, by the end of the book, I did really find some genuine meaning from it. I'm gonna say what I thought this meaning was now, but I don't really see it as spoilers because one, it becomes relevant very early on in the book, and two, I'm positive that there is more important stuff to be taken from this book from a thematic standpoint than what I'm gonna touch on. Anyway, what I got a lot of meaning out of in the book was Clarke's description of like a simple happiness of Piranesi within the labyrinth. He acknowledges his loneliness and his occasional difficulty, but he feels largely at peace. He loves the house and he loves everything in it. He lives in this elegant simplicity, giving meaning to and finding serenity in everything around him. The company of birds, the wisdom of the statues, and the meditative flow of the tides. And of course, the implied juxtaposition is with our real world. The labyrinth is a safe space for Piranesi, simple, safe, and non-judgmental compared to our world. But anyway, if you read this book, I'm sure you will get much more intelligent and enlightening things from it than I did. But it's also okay if you don't. It's perfectly fine to just sit back and enjoy witnessing the atmosphere and mystery unfolding in front of you. It's been really hard for me to go this far in the review and not mention my favorite book of the year so far, I Who Have Never Known Men. Both it and Piranesi set up this very sparse world, and then they slowly teach you more and more about it. And I must be a sucker for this archetype because these might be my two favorite. In fact, I say for sure they're my two favorite books of the year so far. I know that I didn't catch all of the clues, nor did I definitely catch all of the meaning that was meant to be taken out of this book, but I had that feeling at the end of it where I'm just like, I feel honored to have witnessed that. When I was reading it with my mom, and I was like a chapter or two ahead of her, I would just keep feeling so giddy for her to read the book and reach certain parts of it that I had read. And that extends to anyone who is lucky enough to read this book. I am sincerely excited for you to go through the process of unwrapping the mystery of Piranesi and his labyrinth. Thanks for watching. Be kind to yourself.